Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this MCTV sports production of high school wrestling. We're coming to you from the campus of Mills High School in this Ocean Division matchup. It's the Mills Vikings hosting the Hillsdale Knights. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kenny Milch alongside my broadcast partner, the legendary Bill Gray. Bill, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Ken.
Well, we've got a couple fairly young teams from the Ocean Division. Looks like we've got a nice full schedule, at least of JV matches, but not too many varsity matches. But still, we're in for some exciting action out there on the mat.
Mm-hmm. It'll be fundamental wrestling, okay? And in the Ocean Division, you usually get a fair number of forfeits, which is unfortunate, but that's the way it is.
Checking the standings from the JV division first, because that's where we're going to start, would be Mills actually comes in with an overall record of 2-0. They've won 2 matches. Hillsdale 1-0-1. They actually had a tie with Oceana. I didn't realize that there were ties in wrestling.
Well, there isn't. I'm the PAL director of wrestling, and we fixed that.
Oh, okay.
There is, if the score at the end of the dual meet is tied, there's a criteria that you use to resolve the tie. And it starts out with the greatest number of matches won, and it was Oceana won 7 matches and Hillsdale won 5. So that tie disappeared, and it became a win for Oceana.
Oh, so that was a tough break for Hillsdale, and they're just still warming up, getting ready to start the matches. The Hillsdale head coach of varsity and JV is Joe Patani in his 3rd year, but he's been around for over 30 years. You've seen him.
Both of the coaches tonight wrestled when I was coaching at Oceana High School. So it was my pleasure to coach against them and watch them grow as wrestlers and also watch them grow as coaches. It's been kind of neat.
Now, it's interesting with Mills, Larry Knox is normally the assistant varsity coach, but today he is the acting head coach for James McConkey, whose wife is expecting any day now, and they're expecting a boy.
Yep.
That was Orion Huang from Mills getting a forfeit. I guess Hillsdale was unable to.
We're down here. Yeah, that's right.
Field a wrestler.
He won by forfeit. That was the 172-pound weight class. And now we go to the 184-pound weight class, and we have a match here.
So we have Patrick Mullins for Mills in the 184, and he's going to be taking on Sharon Tamang. So we're getting set to the match. Josh Stark is the referee in his 1st year. And kind of sometimes these matches start out with a little feeling out process, Bill.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing to notice is that the wrestlers are designated as green and red. Now, the difficult part today is you got the wrestlers, both teams, in red uniforms. So if you look at the official, you can see that he's got a red wristband on and a green wristband on, and he'll award the points accordingly. Okay, now the Mills wrestler is designated as red, and the Hillsdale wrestler is designated as green. Matches start out in a neutral position with neither wrestler in control, and they're both battling to get a takedown.
Once again, this is a JV match in the 184-pound class. Patrick Mullins for Mills against Sharon Tamang for Hillsdale. Now, Sharon is one of the top wrestlers for the Knights. We spoke with head coach Patani about the wrestler. It's his 3rd year, his 1st year on varsity, and we had some points awarded there, Bill.
Okay. The Hillsdale wrestler attacked the Mills wrestler's legs and was countered, and he earned a 2-point takedown. Now the Hillsdale wrestler just reversed him. So a reversal is worth 2 points, and he's exposed his back. And if you can see it, the referee will count. If he holds him there for 3 seconds, past a 45-degree angle, he'll get a 2-point near fall. If he holds him there for 5, he gets a 3-point near fall. And if he pins him, pinning is the ultimate of control in wrestling, where you hold your opponent's shoulders to the mat for a count of 2 seconds.
And it looks like Tamang just was able to get that pin.
Yeah, he got taken down, then he got a nice reversal, and he reversed his opponent to his back. And then he won by a fall. Team score in wrestling, you earn team points as you get the results of matches. The first match was a forfeit, so that team earns 6 points. And the pin by the Hillsdale wrestler earned their team 6 points. Now there's decisions, major decisions, technical falls. We'll get there as we see them. But each wrestler is scoring match points to decide the outcome of their match, and at the same time they're earning team points to decide which team wins the dual meet.
So Sharon Tamang of Hillsdale gets the win and improves his overall record to 9-7. Once again, the junior did place third in a JV tournament earlier this year at Albany. He was injured earlier this year playing mat football. He had an ankle injury, and he's been able to come back, and he's in fine form, picking up the win there as we now move over to the 192s.
Okay, I think we've gone through 2 forfeits.
2 forfeits, okay.
All right, and what ended up happening in the 192 and 222-pound weight classes is that neither team had a wrestler. So they become double forfeits. So there are no team points awarded at all, okay? So this is the heavyweight division.
Okay, so for Mills, you have Joshua Abraham taking on Felipe Oriana of Hillsdale, and Hillsdale has kind of the lighter color with that insignia on the back.
And it's kind of hard to see, especially with the big guys, but the wrestlers are wearing anklets, okay, green and red again. And if you take a look at the right leg of the Hillsdale wrestler, he's got a green anklet on. Now, when you get to these big guys, sometimes those anklets don't fit, so they don't wear them, all right?
So Josh Abraham for Mills is a senior in his first year wrestling. He has a lot of promise, the coach said. It's he did place third in a recent tournament and did some summer wrestling camps, and he's a much improved wrestler, and it's kind of hard, I would imagine, Bill, not having a lot of experience and stepping up into one of these big matches.
Yeah, it's beginning wrestlers are called novices, and he just shot a nice single leg, was unable to finish it, and then he comes out of it into the neutral position, that's very sound wrestling. That I attempt to take a risk, and then it doesn't work. At the very least, I want to come out in a neutral position, and he just did a really good job of that. The bigger wrestlers, they tend to tie up. They want to wrestle in a close, tied up position. Most big guys have a hard time attacking legs because they don't want to get underneath the opposing wrestler. Okay, so a lot of times not much happens with the heavier wrestlers. Now it is tiring, okay, the pushing, the shoving, and all of that kind of stuff. So the score here is 0-0. Now, at the start of the second round, one of the wrestlers will get their choice of being neutral on the bottom, on the top, or they can actually defer their choice to the other wrestler. In this case, the Hillsdale wrestler chose the bottom position, which is good tactics because it's easier to score points from the bottom, all other things being equal. And if the match goes into overtime, there's some choices to make, and some of those choices go to the wrestler who scores the first point. Okay? So when it's 0-0 at the end of the first round, you want to take your wrestler and put him on the bottom because, generally speaking, it's easier to score that first point, and if it goes into overtime, then he's going to have an advantage because he's going to have some good choices to make.
Now, one thing that you can notice is, and you're talking about the factor of fatigue and getting tired, is there a point where, both guys are just down, no action's happening? Would the referee then make some type of indication that let's get something going?
If it is the perception of the referee that a wrestler is stalling, okay, then there is a procedure. The wrestler gets warned. The first time, if they continue to stall, then his opponent gets a point. If he does it again, his opponent gets another point. If he does it again, his opponent gets 2 points. If he does it again, his opponent is disqualified. And it's the same as if he had pinned him. That very rarely happens. Now, what the referee just called there was a stalemate. Stalemate means that nothing is happening. Neither wrestler can do much, so we're going to get a fresh start. Okay? Now, the Hillsdale wrestler was on the bottom, so he remains there. The referee's going to tell him to get set, then he'll tell the wrestler to get on top. And then he'll start them again. Okay, now there's one thing that's very important about folk-style wrestling, which is what we do in high school, is that the top wrestler cannot lock his hands around the trunk of the bottom wrestler. So if he does, it's a penalty. Now, if they get up on their feet, he can, but as long as they're on the mat, he can't. Now, that there is called a half Nelson, okay? So now if you take a look, he has turned the Hillsdale wrestler past a 45-degree angle. And the referee counted, and he's already counted to 5. So if the Hillsdale wrestler fights off his back, the Mills wrestler is going to get 3-point near fall. Okay, it's 3 red, and then he'll end up touching his shoulder that indicates it was a near fall. If he had only held him there for 3 or 4 seconds, it would be a 2-point near fall. So the longer you hold him, the more points you get. Now the buzzer sounded, so now we're in the 3rd round, okay? And if you take a look, this time the Mills wrestler picked the bottom. It's easier to score, okay? All right.
So Abraham of Mills has a 3-0 lead here in the 3rd round, and now they're both on their feet. It's a pretty entertaining match.
Now it's 4, all right, because he got up and he escaped. Escaping means I get into a neutral position, okay? And an escape in high school wrestling is 1 point, all right? So now they're trying to take each other down again. And now the referee just warned the Mills wrestler for stalling, okay? Tactically, that's probably a pretty good idea for the Mills wrestler. He's ahead 4-0. He doesn't really have to take any risks, okay? And it's a JV match, so it goes by pretty quickly. Referees will be far more critical of elite wrestlers when they're stalling than novices or beginners. So that was that's the Mills heavyweight. Now he's been warned again. Okay, so now he's got to pick it up a little bit. All right. The Mills wrestler was warned for the 2nd time, so now the Hillsdale wrestler just got a point. So if he warns him again, it's going to be another point. Okay.
But it appears that the Hillsdale wrestler isn't doing a whole lot himself. I mean, it's hard to penalize just because he's winning.
But if you take a look, okay, there's ways to block penetration and so on. Now, the Mills wrestler just scored a touchdown. A takedown. Football coach, right? Sorry about that.
Right.
Just touchdowns are 6, all right? Just scored a takedown, all right? So that's 2 points.
2.
All right? And now the match ends.
So that one, 6-1. The victory
and that
for
is
the
a
Mills,
regular decision.
which is worth how many team points?
Okay, well, let's do this first. A regular decision is when the point differential is 1 to 7 points. So you outscore your opponent by somewhere between 1 and 7 points. And for your team, you earn 3 points. Now,
so our team score 9-6 currently.
Well,
with Mills with the lead.
That is correct.
Okay.
And the other thing, now you're going to see a contrast here. We're going from the heavyweight division to the lightest division. So this is the 106-pound or 108-pound division.
Brandon Truan of Mills is taking on Jason Griffey of Hillsdale.
Things are going to be a lot faster now.
Yeah.
Okay. There's your 2-point takedown by Brandon Truan.
So Truan for the Vikings jumps on
And
top
he's being
early.
very aggressive on top.
Getting close to a pin here early on, just 25 seconds into the first round. Another JV match, and there's the pin for Truan. Nicely done, Bill.
Yeah, very aggressive. And the neat thing is when he got the takedown, he immediately went to work working for the fall. That's what fans like to see. That's what officials like to see, okay? If you want to contrast that with a heavyweight match, when they got down on the mat, they were kind of laying on each other. There wasn't a whole lot going on, okay? So when you see the lightweight kids, there's generally more action, okay?
6 points for that pin?
Yes.
Okay, so we're at a total of 15-6 as far as the team score goes. Mills on top of Hillsdale early on tonight.
Yeah, let's back up a minute.
Okay.
Decision, 1 to 7 point differential is 3 points. If you beat your opponent by 8 or more, it's called a major decision, and you get 4 points for your team. If you get ahead of your opponent by 15 points, okay, that's called a technical fall, and you get 5 points for your team. And then, of course, a pin is 6. So that young lady just got a forfeit. Something that's happened within wrestling over the last decade is similar to what was going on in judo for decades and decades and decades, is that boys can wrestle girls and vice versa. Okay? Another forfeit from Mills.
So on those 2 forfeits,
6 points each.
6 points each. So at this
forfeit
point,
is the same as a pin.
okay, 27-6 now. Mills on top of Hillsdale here as we continue with the JV match, and that was Keith Ho for Mills who got that forfeit. And Keith Ho, a junior with a 12-8 record, now is at 13-8. Made it to the second day of Mid-Cals last week. Did not place, but apparently that is a
The Mid-California
prestigious
Championships is the elite tournament in Northern California. Over 90 teams from all over the state of California, and some of them from out of state. Now there's an interesting story here. The wrestler from Mills in this weight class, Matt Madrano, his dad, who's here in the audience today, was a tremendous wrestler at Cappuccino High School back in the 1970s, okay? Tremendous wrestler. And back then, when I was at Oceana, the Oceana Cappuccino dual meet was a big thing. And I remember our kids wrestling against Matt going way back. So there's a lineage here, and we'll see how we do. A lot of times, sons of wrestlers do well, you know.
Must make for some interesting living room teaching sessions where
Move the furniture out of the way, and you practice on the front room rug all the time.
and then at some point it's where Junior takes on Dad, and Dad says no more.
Exactly. Same things happens to coaches. I used to wrestle with kids all the time.
Did you?
And then I reached a point in my early or late 30s where the kids started to hurt me, and I said, that's it, no more.
That's it.
Okay.
You're watching MCTV Sports. I'm Kenny Milch, along with the legendary coach Bill Gray from Terra Nova, just retired from football and is very famous in the wrestling world. Also, PAL, you said commissioner?
Director of wrestling.
Director of wrestling. So he's giving us some tremendous insight here tonight, and this match has got some things going on over there in the corner.
All right, Madrano attacked his opponent with a very nice double leg takedown, so he now leads the match 2-0. Okay, now it is going to be, all right, it was Madrano's choice. He deferred his choice. He doesn't want to be on the bottom now because scoring that first point is an issue. He's already scored the first point. So if it goes overtime, he's in the driver's seat when it gets to overtime. Okay.
We're here in round 2 of the 128-pound division of this JV match. Medrano of Mills versus Pang of Hillsdale. And Medrano now with a 2-1 lead, so Pang scored a point.
He just got an escape. He got off the bottom, and now they're in a neutral position. So now it's a critical moment in the match, okay? Getting the next takedown is going to be a distinct advantage for whoever scores it, okay? It could put Medrano ahead 4-1, or it could give the lead to to Pang of Hillsdale. He could go ahead 3-2. So tactically, this is a very important part of the match. They're trying to control each other's wrists and hands. Okay, that's a penalty point. You cannot grab your opponent's singlet or his headgear. And what happened there was Medrano grabbed Pang's headgear. So it's a penalty point. And you go through that same process again. 1 point, 1 point, 2 points, disqualification. Now, that's a single leg. He comes out around the body, he gets his takedown. Now he's going to work for a near fall if he can. So Medrano is now ahead 4-2. He finally put the half in, but a little too late. The half Nelson is under the arm, over the head. Okay. And see, he got that takedown just in time.
So at the end of round 2, he's got that 4-2 lead. This is really an exciting match.
He's kind of in the driver's seat right now. Medrano is.
So these JV matches, the rounds are 1:30.
1.5, yeah.
And with the varsity?
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Now, if you take a look here, Medrano selected the bottom. So if everything stays just the way it is, Pang, in order to win the match, has to turn Medrano over. That's hard to do at any level, okay? What he may do, probably not. If you're down by 1 point, you could let him go and take him down. Give him an escape and take him down, but that doesn't really fit here right now, so we'll see what happens.
So basically, Medrano on the bottom is going to just try to stay down there for the last 50 seconds, and he'll win.
Without getting turned over.
Without getting turned over.
But he's got to make it look good. He's obligated by the rules of wrestling to try to escape or reverse. And if in the referee's perception he's just laying there, he's going to go through that stalling sequence.
Right.
Okay.
30 seconds now left in this third and final round of this really entertaining match of the JVs and the 128s. Medrano for Mills on the bottom and Pang for Hillsdale on the top, and they're out of bounds, or out of the circle. So with 22 seconds left, they'll head back to the middle. Medrano will be on the bottom again.
Now the other thing to look at is, okay, now here's a tactical thing. The wrestler that's on top can choose to change it from mat wrestling to standing up wrestling, neutral position.
He needs that 2-point takedown, correct?
Yeah, but in so doing, he just gave the Mills wrestler an escape.
Oh.
He didn't have to wrestle for it, but he conceded an escape, okay? And now he's going to try to take him down, which he's in pretty good position to do, but now time runs out.
Medrano gets the 5-2 victory.
Medrano wins 5-2 and gets 3 points for his team. There are, with young wrestlers, it's kind of hard to get them to understand it, but there's 3 things they need to know. They need to know the score while they're wrestling. They need to know how much time is left in the match, and they need to know where they are on the mat.
And they're helped out by their coach today, Larry Knox.
But right there, that was a good job by Medrano because he used the clock appropriately, and he didn't give up the takedown at the end. Okay, even if he had, he still would have won. Okay, it was a very smart job by him.
We got another forfeit out there in the 134s. Brian Austria of Mills picks up 6 more points. So now the JV score is 36-6. The Vikings on top. It looks like we've got another forfeit here.
Nope, we got a match.
Oh, we've got a match. Okay, there's the Hillsdale wrestler. In the 140s, you got Tucson Avery of Mills taking on Renata Lopez of Hillsdale.
And this is a boy wrestling a girl.
Okay.
Okay, which is perfectly legal in the sport of high school wrestling now. Okay, and like I said, I want to repeat myself, but the peninsula here has some of the best female wrestlers in the state of California. They have a league championship, they have a Central Coast section championship, and they have a state championship for female wrestling.
So during league, they can go boys and girls, but once they get to the sectionals, then it goes girl.
Once they get into the league.
Into the league.
League finals.
League finals, thank you.
A girl could wrestle against boys in the league finals and the section and the state if they chose to.
Oh, okay.
But very few do, okay? Very rare. And girls wrestling has become a very, very important part of the high school athletic scene. There are some schools that have full teams. The weight classes are different if you're wrestling girls against girls. If a girl is wrestling a boy, then they have to do the boy weight classes.
Oh, okay. Once again, Tucson Avery of Mills taking on Renata Lopez of Hillsdale, and that's the girl, Renata.
Okay, now there's no control yet. Now there is. He put her back in jeopardy, and if you saw the referee count there, so we got a 2-point takedown, I'm not sure, and a 2-point near fall, because he counted to 2.
Great move right there at the end of the round before the buzzer.
Yeah. And see, that's where you need to know the time. If it's right near the end, I need to fight really hard to not give up that takedown. All right? It's very frustrating as a coach when you see your wrestler conceding points right at the end of a round or right at the edge of the mat. Know where you're at. Sometimes you can get off the mat constructively and escape a scoring situation by your opponent. Okay, now this is called a vine. It's a leg right. See how he's got his leg in there, twisted around? Okay, that's a pretty advanced move for a JV wrestler.
Interesting, you've got instructions coming from one of the guys at the scorers table as well as Coach Knox over there, and that must become a little bit difficult.
I'll tell you a little bit about that. It's interesting. Now there's a lot of technique to this, okay? How to do it, how to counter it, and so on. I don't want to get too technical here, but the Mills wrestler is doing a pretty good job. So we got another near fall, and I think that was 2, okay? So now the score is 6-0. When you're on a wrestling mat and the gym is noisy, when you're out there, the only person you really hear is your coach. It's kind of weird, but that's the way it is. Now, that's an arm bar, okay? A very basic fundamental pinning combination. Now, see how her shoulders finally got past 45, and you see the referee counting 3, 4, and 5. So now if the young lady fights back to her stomach, he would have earned 3 points. Okay,
but instead,
he pinned her.
He got the pin,
Okay.
Tucson Avery of Mills.
And he earned 6 points for his team.
Which now makes the score 42-6. The Mills Vikings in this JV battle.
One-sided scores in wrestling are not true indicators of the action. You can have really close matches, and if one team is winning the bulk of those matches, the score goes in one team's favor, when in fact the matches might have been very close or very competitive. And one of the most exciting things in high school wrestling is when the team score comes down to the last match. Okay? Now, back when I wrestled, you went from the lightest weight to the heavyweight, and so it was the heavyweight that kind of got stuck with that all the time.
Right.
Okay? A lot of pressure, and that's why they changed it. That's why they pick a different starting weight for each dual meet.
Right. And that's determined
I
by
kind of
a coin
like it
flip?
the way it used to be.
Yeah, get the big guys out there to
That's what
determine it.
heavyweights do.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so what weight class are we
We're
at
in the
here?
147s. For Mills, you've got Brendan Fan versus Alex Mellon, and this is one of the featured matches of the day.
Okay.
Talking with Fan for Mills. He's a junior. 10-10 record, which isn't always indicative, but third in league last year in the 138s.
Okay, that was a beautiful double leg takedown by Fan. Okay.
And Alex Moline, a 3-year guy for Hillsdale. His first year wrestling varsity, has an overall record of 9-7 this year. He's a senior, and that's one of Hillsdale's top wrestlers.
One of the things, because we now have 2 experienced wrestlers here, it's going to appear to be a lot more stable now. There'll be less flopping around, a lot less randomness to the match, because these kids are more skilled. Okay. And a lot of times it'll look like not much is going on. But what they're doing is countering, there's a lot of pushing and pulling going on, and it's very, very tiring. One of the things that an experienced wrestler learns is you can't wrestle full speed for 4.5 minutes or 6 minutes. Nobody on the planet can do that. Okay? So you learn when to, when not to. And if you take a look at this match, first off, it's being wrestled in the center of the mat, which is the way it should be. And it appears that there's not much going on, when in fact there is, okay, from the eye of a person who understands it. So.
And Moline of Hillsdale, who's currently on the bottom, lost his headgear, and the referee, Josh Stark, is letting him continue.
Yes. Now,
isn't that a safety hazard?
Not really. He'll blow his whistle here in a minute and give it back to him. At least he should. For some reason, he decided not to, but he should. Okay. When their action stops, you put the headgear back on. Now, there was a time, and there still is in certain styles of wrestling, freestyle, Greco-Roman, where you don't wear headgear. But the reason is to get rid of, you get friction on the ears, cauliflower ear. And
ouch.
So in high school now, all wrestlers are required to wear headgear. If there's meaningful action going on and the headgear comes off, you let the action continue. If a wrestler's headgear continues to come off, he can be penalized for stalling. Okay?
Once again, this is one of the featured matches of the JV lineup. Brendan Fan of Mills taking on Alex Moline of Hillsdale. And the score is 3-1. Fan has the early lead here in round number 2. Actually, this is going to be considered a varsity match at 2-minute rounds.
Yeah, they inserted it just to keep things moving. So, yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to two-minute rounds here.
So now this particular team score after this match will be only for a varsity score, correct?
Great question.
Thank you.
I don't know. We'll find out. We can add it right in. I would. They've put it in this sequence, so we're going to count this as a. I don't know.
Okay.
I can't answer it. This is
you would
highly
think,
unusual.
Right. Yeah. You would think with the 2-minute rounds that it would be considered a varsity match and that would be a separate score. So maybe we can treat it like that.
Yeah, we can find out.
All right.
Okay.
Nonetheless, still 3-1. 45 seconds left here in round number 2.
Okay, very good double leg takedown, penetration. One of the things, if they get back on their feet again, the Mills wrestler has an outstanding stance, athletic stance. Knees bent, shoulders over his toes, so on, which allows him to have success. Now he's going to try to put the leg right in again, and it was very well countered by the Hillsdale wrestler. Now he gets an escape.
After the Mills wrestler got 2 points for the takedown. So it's 5-2 For Mills, that's Brendan Fan with the lead. Just about the end of the round, number 2.
Good, we got a good match.
As expected, as advertised, one of the featured matches. Fan once again for Mills, a junior. 3rd in the league last year, 138, so he's stepping up into weight as they grow older and mature and change the weight classes.
Yeah, the kids grow, and they have this thing called wrestling weight management now, where the youngsters get tested before the season, and they're given a chart so that they can safely either gain or lose weight. And if they don't match the chart, they're not allowed to wrestle. So there used to be a lot of concerns about wrestlers trying to lose weight, too much weight and so on. Can't do it anymore, okay? Much safer, much better, and it's better for everybody. Even the wrestling is better because the wrestlers aren't as tired. Now, here's a leg ride. He turned him to his back, but he didn't hold him for the mandatory 2 seconds, so he didn't score any points, okay? You can see the Mills wrestler, he's got good hip pressure. See him trying to step the leg in again?
Right.
What the top wrestler is trying to do is to control the bottom wrestler's hips. He can do that with his arms, which is called a tight waist, or he can do it with his legs, if he can step his leg in there and do that leg ride. And there he goes. And now you see how his body's across his hips?
Right.
He's now got very good control of the bottom wrestler's hips. Want to control his center of gravity. And that's what he's doing. And it's pretty hard to get out of that.
Fan is a very skilled wrestler for a junior. He's got a lot of promise. Like you said, he's got nice stance, nice athleticism.
Now the Hillsdale wrestler is trying to get an escape, but he never quite got it. So there's no points there. And Fan is still on top.
Fan for Mills battling Alex Moline, who was quoted as the...
Now, if he stays down on those legs like that, he's going to be stalling. But he works up, and he wins the match 5-2. That was a very good high school wrestling match. And he wins, earns 3 points for his team.
So we're going to consider Mills varsity leading 3-0. And if the JV matches are done, then Mills would have won 42-6. Up next would be the 154s, Joe Esquivel of Mills versus Carlos Guzman of Hillsdale. And they are set to 2 minutes, so I believe this is also going to be considered a varsity match. We did fail to mention the JV head coach at Mills is David Ramil, who did a really nice job of helping us out with a lot of information and paperwork for us. Coached at Aviano Air Base High School in Italy from 99 to 2005. Went to American High School in Fremont. Club wrestled in Italy for 4 years. So thank you to David Ramil and congratulations to him on the JV victory as we get back into this match. Joe Esquivel in the 154s for Mills versus Carlos Guzman of Hillsdale. Once again, our referee is Josh Stark. This is his first year of wrestling, but he is an experienced wrestler himself from Washington High School in the city and actually wrestled at Boise State University.
Impressive. Yeah. He's done a very good job so far. There's a lot of judgment in wrestling. You have to understand control. It's very difficult for a person to referee wrestling if they haven't done it before, if they haven't wrestled, because they don't understand the concept of control. So you will find that most high school wrestling referees have also done a considerable amount of wrestling themselves.
Now that we've got into some of the varsity matches, we can check the Ocean Division standings, where Mills is 1-1, Hillsdale is 0-2. So this Mills team, both varsity and JV, are doing very well this season.
And they're young. They're a young team. So the future is bright for Mills Wrestling, no doubt about it. Okay,
so
they misset the clock. They
right.
So they sounded the horn at a minute 30. So this is a JV match.
Okay.
Okay.
So that helps clarify.
This
things.
is kind of difficult when you kind of blend the two together. Okay. But they fixed it. They did it right.
Timeout.
Okay. No, there are a couple of times when the action stops. If one wrestler is bleeding, you know, like a bloody nose or a scrape, there's what's called bleeding time. Okay, and you take, and a wrestler has 5 minutes of accumulated bleeding time. So he can come out and wrestle. If he starts bleeding again, the 5-minute count continues. All right. If he uses up his 5 minutes, he loses by disqualification. So this is where the coach and maybe an athletic trainer has to come in and make sure that the youngster stops bleeding. There is also injury time and recovery time. Injury time is when a wrestler becomes injured, and it's 2 minutes. Accumulated time again. And recovery time is when a wrestler is injured by an illegal hold. They have a certain amount of time to recover, and if the recovery time is used up, then the injured wrestler wins because he was injured by an illegal hold. Okay?
And hopefully in that situation you wouldn't get the injured wrestler faking that he can't continue.
Wrestling is a sport of honor.
Yes.
All right, and there are scruples and ethics, and you never see that. You never see that.
So we are in round number 2 of this 154-pound JV match. It's Joe Esquivel of Mills taking on Carlos Guzman of Hillsdale. And there is no score with about 1:10 left to go here in round number 2.
Now we may get an escape here soon. There you go. The referee just awarded the escape to Hillsdale. Now they're trying to take each other down again. They went the whole first round without anybody scoring a takedown, so we'll see what happens here. It'd be kind of neat if we saw a match go into overtime, so we could explain that to you, because it is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did one other match here on MCTV Sports over at Aragon versus Mills 2 years ago. Carl Pastore was in your seat, and so we're expanding our MCTV Sports coverage tomorrow night. We're doing a doubleheader, Mills basketball, the boys and the girls, and last week we did boys soccer. We've done 2 boys soccer. We have 2 more girls soccer matches coming up in the next month, and then of course spring sports will be covering baseball and softball, and so MCTV Sports expanding their coverage and trying to get these young high school athletes some exposure.
Absolutely.
Kids like it, the parents like it.
Yep.
They didn't have much TV coverage back in the day when you were
No.
That's
back when videotape was 2 inches wide and the VCRs were as big as a house. Now, this is interesting. The bottom wrestler needs to score a point to tie. That's why he chose the bottom, and he just did it. So now our score is tied 1-1. All right?
50 seconds left here in the match.
So whoever gets a takedown now is going to probably win the match. All right? If neither wrestler gets a takedown, then we're going to get that opportunity to watch overtime.
So this is one of the more exciting parts of wrestling. You got a tie score, 30 seconds now left. You just got to get 1 point.
Yep. Now, that was a good penetrating shot by the Hillsdale wrestler. He's becoming fatigued, as you can see, and he didn't use the edge of the mat the right way. He was in there, had the kid's leg, and he pushed him right out of bounds. So the whistle blows, they come back. Now he's got to start all over again. One of the things you do is you teach wrestlers how to circle and stay on the mat, because he gave up a golden opportunity there.
10
there's
seconds
no takedown left yet. Scrambling. All right, he got the takedown with 4 seconds to go. Yep.
3 seconds to, and there's the buzzer. What a wonderful move there by Joe Esquivel to win that match in the final seconds.
So he gets a takedown and a near fall, and he wins 5-1, a decision right at the buzzer. Okay, so if I'm the coach of the defeated wrestler, I'm going to talk to him about how much time was left when you gave up that takedown. And the young wrestler will probably look at you and say, gee, coach, I don't know. And you say, well, there was only four seconds to go, so you need to know how much time is left, that kind of thing. And it's just a progressive teaching process, of getting them to be aware. Most young wrestlers, they go out and all they can think about is the wrestling match itself. They can't think of all of the exterior stuff, but the really good wrestlers know all about it.
Right. 3 points for that.
3 points.
So 45 now to 6. Mills in the JV team scoring. And this one back to 2 minutes. It looks like Justin Kim for Mills in the 162s against Ryan Choa of Hillsdale. This is another one of those featured matches we were talking about early. Both highly skilled wrestlers from both teams. Starting with Justin Kim, just a sophomore, has won 2 JV tournaments for Mills. Okay. One at Los Gatos and one in the Oceana Shark Shootout last week. For Hillsdale, Choa, 3-year wrestler, first year on varsity, a senior, 8-5 record this year. So we got a senior going against a sophomore, coach.
Who's had some success. So this could be a good one. Okay. And the other thing, if you look, both wrestlers have pretty good stances. Knees are bent. They look athletic. Okay. A lot of times the younger wrestler will have straight legs and be bent over at the waist. Both of these kids have got the end, and what it does, it allows them to gain leverage on their opponent. So we got a nice single here. Let's see if he can finish it. Okay.
You talked earlier about lineage, coach, and Justin Kim for Mills, the sophomore. His older brother, Juan Kim, won the league last year and is wrestling now in New England. So all in the family.
A lot of rough and tumble front room wrestling. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
You go to some serious wrestlers' houses, and they'll actually have small mats in their garage, mats in the bedroom, and the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. And if you take a look at little kids, 2, 3, 4-year-olds, and they're just goofing around, what are they doing? They're wrestling, okay? It's actually a natural activity. Okay, there's references in the Bible of angels wrestling. Okay, the sport is thousands of years old. Okay, and they were trying to get rid of it in the Olympics. It was a foolish idea.
Right.
And now it's back in the Olympics. It's a different style of wrestling than this, but.
So that was the end of round number 1. No score. Once again, a lot of tactical maneuvering. And like you were saying earlier, it doesn't appear a whole lot's going on, but these guys are really going after it.
Yeah. If you ever try it and experiment with it, how fatiguing it gets in a very short period of time. So now it's 0-0. So now the Mills wrestler is trying to get that valuable 1 point from the bottom. Okay. And the top wrestler is trying to break his opponent down and turn him over. So now there's your escape. And now we're bleeding, so now we got bleeding time again. Okay.
Clock stops with 1:36 left to go in the second round, with the Mills wrestler Justin Kim on top, 1-0.
And now we have the bleeding time clock running for the Mills wrestler.
This is match number 4 of the Ocean Division. Also tonight, Burlingame is at Woodside. Menlo Atherton is at Oceana. Aragon has the bye. Menlo Atherton is in first place in the Ocean Division at 3-0. And Oceana, this must be one of their stronger sports at 2-1, right up there in the Ocean standings.
Yeah. There's a very rich tradition of wrestling at Oceana, and Mike Tang, the coach there, is doing a good job of bringing it back. So now we're 1-0. Mills is ahead.
The bleeding has stopped.
For the moment.
For the moment.
Okay. Now if you take it, watch the Hillsdale wrestler setting up the Mills wrestler. He's pretty skilled. He's not attacking the legs right away. He's doing things to set up the takedown.
That's
Let's see if he does it again.
Excuse me, Bill. The senior Choa against the sophomore. He's kind of setting him up.
Yeah,
you could see that.
Yeah. Watch him. See him touch his head, rake his head a little bit, knock a hand away. There's a thing in wrestling called the concept of opposites. Whatever your opponent wants, you want the opposite. Okay? If he wants his, okay, we've got a stalling warning. So Mills has been warned for stalling. And that's a pretty good call. Okay? If you take a look, it's the Hillsdale wrestler that's doing all the setting up. He hasn't gotten any real clean attacks, but he's trying. And the Mills wrestler is doing nothing but defending right now.
Little headbutting going on over there, and it's a lot more shots to the face and the head than any other match we've seen tonight.
Yeah, it gets physical. There's a very nice shot. And the action finished out of bounds, and so there's no points.
Interesting how the referee turned away for a second.
That's
a
mistake.
Yes, I caught that.
Yeah.
Because they were still going at it a little bit.
Yep. Well, one of them didn't know the whistle had blown, so there was nothing illegal there or something. The referee needs to pay a little bit more attention there. But other than that, the referee's done an outstanding job. So now we're in that same situation we were in an earlier match. Okay. The Hillsdale wrestlers on the bottom. The coach very intelligently told his wrestler to take the bottom. Okay. That is not a takedown. The top wrestler was in control the whole time, even though they had got up on their feet. They weren't neutral. Okay. And everybody looks at that, and there are times where slams can be called. It's the top wrestler's job. Let's see if he does it again. Must. Okay. All right. Now, Hillsdale just got in a 1 point for a penalty. And the reason is the Mills wrestler pushed him out of bounds. Okay. And that was a pretty good call. All right. Now he got his escape, so now he's ahead 2-1.
Round number 3, 1:10 left to go with the Hillsdale wrestler Ryan Choa, the senior, ahead 2-1 over the sophomore from Mills, Justin Kim. Another one of our featured matches this evening here at Mills High School on MCTV Sports. Desperate times now. We're under a minute, Coach.
Yep. And there's a nice shot by the Mills wrestler. He gets his takedown and now takes the lead, 3-2.
Great match here.
That was a beautiful double leg. One of the questions would be, why didn't you do that sooner? You know, you're always trying to get your wrestlers to be aggressive. One of the things that you learn from wrestling is self-confidence. Willing as an athlete to take a risk. okay? And that's one of the great things about this sport is you get a lot of self-confidence because you go out there all by yourself. It's just you and the other guy. Okay, that was a tremendous takedown.
And with just 5 seconds left now, it appears that that was the winning move.
Yeah. Well, the Mills wrestler right there was just kind of hanging on. He had already been warned for stalling. If the referee wanted to penalize him for stalling again, it would have tied the match. But the Mills wrestler knew how much time was left in the match, and he knew he could get away with it for a little bit. So tactically, that was an outstanding job by the Mills wrestler.
Justin Kim wins his match 3-2 in the 162-pound division. The sophomore this time got the senior Ryan Choa from Hillsdale. 3 points for that one, Coach?
Yes.
So now in the varsity score for the teams, Mills would be up 6-0. And that was another exciting match. We've had a few good ones tonight.
That one was outstanding.
You know, we talked about both coaches having so much experience. We talked about Coach Knox filling in tonight for Coach McConkey, whose wife is expecting. But Joe Patani, in his third year at Hillsdale, was at San Mateo for 6 years. He was also at SI for a year, Burlingame for 6 years. He coached in the Chico area and also wrestled at El Camino, at Skyline, and at Chico State. He's been around the block.
It's interesting about Coach Patane's history. It's a classic story of high school wrestling. Didn't know much about it. Goes to El Camino High School. Okay, goes out for basketball and doesn't make the team. Okay, it got cut at the last cut. All right, so what does he do? Well, he could go to soccer, he goes out for wrestling, knows very little about it. Finds out he likes it, keeps doing it, ends up being a very successful high school wrestler, a successful junior college wrestler, and now he's, as a teacher coach, he's leading young men the same thing. That's why wrestling is such a great sport. It doesn't matter what size you are. You can be the littlest guy, you can be the biggest guy, okay? If I don't have the hand-eye coordination or the athleticism to play basketball or soccer, go out for wrestling. It's a great sport. You'll be in the best shape of your life, okay? And okay.
So there was a little question out here onto what match this is.
I'm not sure what we're doing. This might be an exhibition match. I think the JV team score is done, okay? This may be an exhibition, which you're able to do in high school wrestling.
Right, maybe we should check with Coach Ramil. I'll check with him real quick. You can help describe now. We got a gold singlet. Is there any reason in particular?
These guys might be varsity wrestlers, okay?
So indeed, we were correct on that varsity match. The 147's Alan Ing of Mills taking on Hillsdale's Senges Boyer. And it's already some scoring early on.
That's
the Hillsdale wrestler leads
2-1. The Hillsdale wrestler scored a takedown. And the Mills wrestler in the gold singlet got an escape. Now, the Hillsdale wrestler just got a takedown and he took the Mills wrestler directly to his back. 5 seconds to go, 2 seconds to go, and the wrestler didn't get pinned. That's good. So he got a takedown and a near fall. Total of 5 points. 2 points for the takedown, 3 points for the near fall.
So now 7-1. There you go. I was wondering if they were going to give him those extra points. Good move there by the Hillsdale wrestler Boyer.
Yep.
That's a great story about Coach Batani, and wonderful.
You find in wrestling a unique group of athletes. Some of them are extremely athletic, okay? And some of them are kids that just can't do much of anything else.
I love this close-up shot here by our MCTV sports crew. You feel like you're inside the action. It's a good sport to be televised.
It is. One of the neat things where spectators really like wrestling is you can see the wrestlers' facial expressions. You get fairly close to the action, okay? You can see the joy, you can see the frustration sometimes. It's a very human sport because you can see the emotions.
Yeah, you can almost feel the pain of some of these twisting, moves, these holds, these turns. Like, that's a great shot there.
That being said, the sport of wrestling is very safe, very safe. There's potentially dangerous holds, there are illegal holds, and the referee's primary job is the safety of the wrestlers. And his secondary job is to make sure that the right wrestler gets declared the winner, okay?
It's 9-1 now. Hillsdale's Boyer is on top of Mills' Alan Ing, and he's on top literally right now as the second round runs out.
There's a tactical issue here now. The Hillsdale wrestler in red is ahead by 8 points. That's a major decision. So if it stays that way, he's going to earn 4 points for his team instead of 3. So he needs to know the score. He needs to know that if he gives up a point, he gives up the major decision. Okay?
Cost a team point.
Cost him a team point. So you've got to be, that's that thing. Know the time, know the score, know where you're on the mat.
That's interesting for the novice viewers to know that there is a lot more than just out there grappling. You got to think like in other sports as well.
Absolutely. There's strategy, there's tactics, there's mistakes, okay? And at times some wrestlers are just physically dominant over others. And the interesting thing, now the Mills wrestler is out of bounds. He could stop fighting now. All he's got to do is just lay flat on his back. He can't pin him out of bounds. So see, he doesn't know that. He can just relax now. Now the definition of out of bounds is a supporting point of each wrestler being out of bounds. When you're on your back, your supporting points are your shoulders. So the Mills wrestler was out of bounds. For the wrestler that was on top, it's either your toes or your knees, whichever is touching the mat. So as soon as the Hillsdale's wrestler's knee touched out of bounds, the supporting point of each wrestler was out of bounds, they're out of bounds. The Mills wrestler didn't know that. He could just lay there. Can't get pinned out of bounds.
And not expend extra energy unnecessarily.
Exactly.
Another tactical thinking point.
Know when to and when not to.
And know where you're at.
Yeah, and know where you are on the mat.
And a pin there.
Yeah. So Hillsdale wins by a fall.
6 points for Hillsdale.
Yeah.
So according to our unofficial score, we have a tie 6-6 in the varsity matchup.
Yep. Now there's a whole lot of forfeits and so on. Let's see what they did. Yeah, they got it at 6-0. That's correct.
So that may be all she wrote. I think the last two would be forfeits.
Could
both
be
in favor of Mills.
Yeah,
David
they're getting
Ding
ready to shake hands
154s and Joey Mahan in the 184s for Mills. And so that would be 12 more points. So it looks like the Mills varsity Vikings team would win
12-6.
Well, since it's 6-6 and you got two more forfeits, wouldn't it be 18-6 for a final?
It's the Hillsdale kid won here.
Right. So at this point,
well, they included all of these scores.
Okay.
In the JV match, so.
Okay, so nonetheless, 12 to 6.
Yeah.
Looks like a clean sweep for the Mills Vikings JV and varsity wrestlers. I wanted to mention one other thing about Coach Knox, who did a nice job filling in for Coach McConkey. We were talking about lineage and filling in and in the bloodlines. Coach Knox's son, Greg, wrestled in 2002, 2003, and won a league championship both years in the 215-pound category.
Wow. Wrestling is a big deal in families. You know, the dad wrestles, the son wrestles. When the son has children, they wrestle. It's very much like that.
And the dad coaches now, and the son, Greg, is assisting coaching at Oceana with who else? Mike Tang, who you mentioned earlier.
Yes, yeah. The wrestling community, surprisingly, is very large, but it's kind of inclusive. You know, you have to get into it to understand it. But wrestling on the peninsula, getting better. You know, these kids, a couple of weeks from now, are going to go to the PAL finals. There'll be a JV championship and a team championship. Same thing for the girls. And the varsity wrestlers, if they finish first or second, they go on to the Central Coast section, which stretches from the private schools in San Francisco all the way down to King City, south of Monterey. And if you place in the top, I can't remember what it is, 3 or 4 at the Central Coast section, then you go to the state championship. And you talk about tremendous wrestling. It's really something.
The PAL finals are at El Camino on February 19th. Next up for Mills, they're at Aragon next Tuesday, and Hillsdale is at Burlingame. With the varsity win, Mills' record in the Ocean Division goes to 2-1. Hillsdale drops to 0-3, and with the JV win, Hillsdale falls to 1-2, and Mills goes to 3-0 in the Ocean Division. So that's going to wrap it up here on MCTV Sports. Once again, thank you so much, Bill Gray, for giving us tremendous insight to what's going on in wrestling, and congratulations on your retirement, and we wish you all the best.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a ball, and I wish we could expose the sport of wrestling to more and more people, because it's a tremendous spectator sport.
Thanks again to our entire MCTV crew. On behalf of Bill Gray, I'm Kenny Melch saying so long, and we'll see you next time right here on MCTV Sports. Good night, everybody.